The sound of gunfire split through the humid Lagos night. Chioma ducked behind a burning car, heart slamming against her ribs. Screams echoed down the narrow street. Sirens wailed somewhere far, far away. She pressed her palms to her ears, shaking, until a familiar silhouette walked through the smoke, slow, deliberate, like a ghost that refused to die. Her breath caught. "Jin-Woo," she whispered. The man didn't look at her. He just stepped over the bodies, blood on his shirt, a gun glinting in his hand. And in that instant, Chioma knew the truth. The man she once worked for, the man she once loved, was the same man who destroyed everything she cared about 3 years earlier. Chioma's life was simple back then. She worked as a freelance interpreter, switching between Yoruba, English, and sometimes rusty Korean she'd learned from her mother's years in Seoul. The pay was terrible, but the work was steady, until a stranger called her one night. His voice was deep, precise, cold. "Miss Chioma Adebayo, you come highly recommended. I need someone fluent in both Korean and discretion." The next day, a black SUV stopped outside her apartment. Inside sat a man in a gray suit, his hair slicked back, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Park." He introduced himself when she climbed in. "Lee Jin-Woo. My business in Lagos requires translation and trust." Something about his tone made her uneasy, the kind of calm that hides a storm. They drove in silence to a compound on the island. Tall walls, cameras, armed men at the gate. She told herself it was just money, just another corporate job. But when the elevator doors opened and she saw the files stacked on his desk, thick folders stamped confidential, names of politicians, and numbers written in red, she knew this was a logistics. "This," he said, sliding a document toward her, "is our first translation." The paper was filled with Korean text, coded, almost poetic. She started translating softly. "Shipment confirmed. Port cleared. 2 missing." Jin-Woo raised a finger. "Stop there. You understand now why discretion is necessary." He leaned closer, and for the first time she caught his scent. Faint smoke, sharp cologne, danger. "Work for me, Chioma. I pay triple what anyone else offers. But once you start, you never walk away." She hesitated only a second before saying yes. In Lagos, survival came before comfort. Days turned into weeks. Jin-Woo wasn't talkative, but his presence filled every room. He never raised his voice, never showed anger, but the men who worked for him trembled when he entered. To her, he was polite, almost gentle. He'd ask about her day, bring her imported coffee, even smile sometimes. And when he did, it felt like sunlight breaking through glass. One night, after hours of work, she found him staring out at the lagoon. The city lights reflected in his eyes like distant fires. "Do you miss Seoul?" she asked. He turned slowly. "Seoul is beautiful," he said, "but beauty doesn't mean peace. I left because I had to. What did you leave behind?" He looked at her then, really looked. "My heart." Something in the way he said it made her chest tighten. Over the next months, their lives intertwined like threads that shouldn't touch. He started teaching her Hangul again. They'd sit late into the night, the city quiet around them, translating documents that made less and less sense, or made too much. And then came the ledger. She was sorting through files when she saw a familiar name, Afro-Korean Adebayo, her brother. The note beside it read, "Eliminated." Her stomach turned cold. She couldn't breathe. She burst into Jin-Woo's office. "What is this?" He didn't look surprised. He closed the laptop slowly, stood, and met her eyes. "You weren't supposed to see that." "What did you do to him?" she screamed. "He betrayed me." Jin-Woo said simply, "He stole from the organization. He put us all in danger. Lagos isn't kind to traitors." She froze, shaking, tears cutting down her face. "You killed my brother." "I ordered it," he corrected quietly. "There's a difference." She lunged for him, hands trembling. "You're a monster." He didn't fight back. Instead, he stepped closer, lowered his voice until it was almost a whisper. "You think I'm proud of it? You think I sleep? Then why?" "Because in my world, mercy is death." She stared at him, broken between rage and disbelief. "You expect me to stay?" "No," he said, voice soft. I expect you to understand. That night, she packed her things and tried to run. The guard stopped her at the gate. By morning, Jin-Woo was waiting in her apartment, leaning against the window. You know too much, he said quietly. If you leave, they'll find you. They'll kill you. Let me protect you. Protect me, she spat. From you? His gaze darkened. From the people worse than me. And that was how she became trapped, between the man who killed her brother and the world that would kill her for knowing him. But something unexpected began to happen. Hate twisted into obsession. Every time she saw him, she wanted to scream and run. Yet she couldn't stop staring. His calmness became addictive, his silences magnetic. One evening, while Legos thundered outside, he found her crying over a photograph of her brother. Without a word, he sat beside her. Do you want revenge? He asked. Yes. He nodded slowly. Then stay close. The man who gave the final order wasn't me. It was someone in Seoul. Find him. Why would you help me? Because I'm already damned, he said, eyes distant. Maybe you can still be saved. And that's how their alliance began, born out of blood and betrayal. They became inseparable, planning, decoding files together. He showed her Seoul through photos, the Han River, the snow in winter, temples lit at night. She showed him Legos, the chaos, the music, the life. Sometimes he'd smile faintly. I miss snow, he said. You can't miss what freezes you, she replied. Their banter became softer, their stares longer. Then one night he kissed her, sudden, desperate, like a confession he couldn't speak. She didn't stop him. It was wrong, but nothing in her life had ever felt so right. The next day, the phone rang. Korean voices. Urgent, sharp. Jin-Woo's expression hardened. They found us, he said. Who? My old family. The syndicate. He began packing. I have to leave Lagos. Tonight. She grabbed his arm. What about me? You stay. Forget me. She laughed bitterly. After everything? He looked at her then, eyes filled with something almost human. If I take you, you'll die. If I leave you, maybe you'll live. But she refused to let him go. If I die, it won't be because I ran. And just like that, she chose the wrong side of history. They fled through back streets, bullets slicing the night air. She saw the man she thought she knew become someone else entirely, ruthless, strategic, terrifyingly calm under fire. When they finally reached a safe house, he collapsed on the floor, bleeding from a shoulder wound. She pressed a cloth against it, trembling. Don't you dare die on me. He smiled faintly. Now you sound like someone who cares. I don't, she whispered. Liar. For a moment, time stopped. The storm outside, the flickering light. Everything felt suspended between guilt and desire. He reached up, brushed a tear from her cheek. You'll hate me again tomorrow. Then let me love you tonight. If you're still watching this far, you already know this love was never meant to last. Hit that subscribe button and tell me, would you have stayed for him? By morning, the safe house was surrounded. Jin-Woo woke first, grabbed his gun and looked out the window. They're here, he said. Who? The ones I ran from. What do they want? He met her eyes. You. Gunfire shattered the glass. She screamed, ducked. He pulled her down, shielding her. Run. I'm not leaving you. You promised to find a man in Seoul. Go. She grabbed his arm. Come with me. He pushed her toward the back door. If they take me alive, it's over for both of us. The look he gave her then would haunt her forever. Love, regret, surrender. She ran. That was the last time I saw him alive, or so I thought. Chioma froze when the echo faded. The world outside the safe house went silent, except for rain on the tin roof. Her heart hammered, but she couldn't move. She whispered his name once, then again, and the only answer was a hum of distant traffic. For days she hid. The news said nothing. The compound he had built in Lagos was suddenly under investigation, but no one mentioned him by name. Every number she tried had been disconnected. It was as if Jin-Woo Park had evaporated. Weeks blurred together. She returned to her small apartment, tried to rebuild a normal rhythm of work, sleep, and silence. Yet every night she heard his voice, the way he had said, "If they take me alive, it's over for both of us." One afternoon, a courier delivered a brown envelope with no return address. Inside lay a photograph of Seoul in winter and a note written in Hangul, "Come if you still want the truth." Her hands trembled. She had sworn never follow ghosts, but Lagos now felt like a cage. Within days, she was on a plane. Seoul was colder than she imagined. The air bit her cheeks. The sky hung pale above the city. She found the address printed faintly on the back of the photo. A tea house hidden down a narrow alley near the Han River. Inside, steam fogged the windows. At a corner table sat an older woman who studied her quietly. "You're Chioma," the woman said in careful English. "He told me you might come." "Who?" "Jin-Woo. He wanted you to have this." A small wooden box slid across the table. Inside was a flash drive and a folded letter written in his neat, deliberate hand. "If you're reading this, you're safer than I am. I didn't lie to you, but I didn't tell you everything. The man who ordered your brother's death is still watching. Don't trust anyone who offers protection. Decode the file. You'll understand who I truly was, and who you are." Chioma blinked through tears. "He's alive?" The woman didn't answer. "Some men survive by changing their names," she said, and left her alone with the box. In a rented room overlooking the river, Chioma opened the file that night. Pages of figures filled the screen. Bank transfers, coded emails, contracts. One name appeared again and again, Chioma Adebayo, her brother. Scrolling further, she found scanned birth records. 2 children, same date, same hospital. One adopted by a family in Seoul, one by a family in Lagos. He hadn't killed her brother. He was her brother. Everything inside her went still. Memories rearranged themselves. His careful teaching, the way he listened when she spoke about her family, the quiet grief in his eyes. It wasn't love he had hidden. It was the truth. A knock startled her. A young man stood at the door, his accent Korean but his eyes familiar. "You shouldn't have come," he said. "They're watching you." "Who are you?" Someone who used to call him Hyung, he answered, "Older brother." Then he turned and vanished into the stairwell before she could speak. For days she wandered Seoul, each street echoing something he had once described. The markets, the bridges, the smell of roasted chestnuts. In the file she found recordings of his voice, calm as ever. "If she finds this, tell her I wanted peace, not power. Tell her Lagos was the first place I ever felt human." A week later, another letter arrived at her hotel, typed in plain font. "Return to Lagos. Finish what he started." At the bottom was a single Hangul character, "family." She stared at the word until dawn. Every instinct told her to leave the past buried. Yet some truths refused to stay hidden. Back in Lagos, the city felt louder than ever, its heat and color pressing against her skin. People whispered that a foreign businessman had left debts behind, that a woman had disappeared with his secrets. She unlocked his old office. Dust coated the furniture. On the desk lay another letter, her name written across it. "You looked for me in the wrong city. I never left. The truth was never in Seoul. It was always here, waiting for you to see it." Beneath the note sat a small key and a red petal pressed flat inside a ledger. She followed the key's number to a locker at the port. Inside were boxes of documents marked with seals from 6 countries, and a single-framed photograph of the 2 of them in her workshop months earlier. Behind the picture, another line in Hangul. "You wanted revenge. I wanted forgiveness. Which one of us will win?" Her breath caught. She turned the frame over again and again, as if the answer might reveal itself. The following afternoon, while she waited across a crowded street, her phone buzzed. A message lit the screen. Look up. Across the road stood Jin-Woo. No guards, no shadow of the man she had known, just him, alive. Their eyes met for a heartbeat before he stepped back into the moving crowd and disappeared. Chioma stood frozen, tears burning her eyes as horns blared around her. The city surged on, indifferent. That night she placed every letter, photo, and file into a box and slid it beneath her bed. The morning light crept through the curtains. Legos glowed gold and merciless. She whispered into the emptiness, "If your heart still belongs to Seoul, then let mine stay here." Her phone vibrated once more. Unknown number. One sentence. "This story isn't finished." She smiled, a tired, broken smile edged with something fierce. "Neither am I," she murmured. Outside, the city woke, the sea wind carrying the sound of life and promise. Some hearts cross oceans, she thought. Others never leave their scars behind.